Brady be extra motivated this Sunday in this game?
Well, obviously, you're always motivated, Skip. You're going back home. You're playing your childhood team that you grew up, you wanted to be a part of. You watched them win a championship. And I think the thing is that, yeah, you always want to go. It's anytime you're jilted. Whether you've been in a relationship and somebody turned you down and you got out of a relationship, they didn't want to be with you anymore, you're like, okay, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to show you made a mistake. I'm sure there's a part of that going on with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, the greats, will find any reason to be motivated to try to kill you. So I don't think I'm breaking news when I say that, Skip. But I think the extra motivation for Tom Brady is, man, I got to get my offense playing better. We played better a couple of drives here, a couple of drives there. That's not going to cut it. That's not a Tom Brady team. And he knows come December, this is the time that we need to be playing some of our best football.
Yep.
2 drives against the Rams, 2 drives against the Saints. That's not good enough for us. Averaging 18 points a game.
No.
That's not good enough. So I believe there's motivation and there's extra motivation. Do I believe that he wants to kill the 49ers? Because he's like, bro, y'all, look what y'all got. Y'all got a chance to get to go. And they said, nah, we good. We pass. We'll keep driving down the street with what we got. And so, yeah, I believe he'll be motivated, Skip, but I believe he was extra motivated because they're like, man, Tom don't look like Tom. Tom look like he wants to be somewhere else. Tom doesn't look like he's happy. We understand that he had a lot going on that played into it early on. But Skip, I mean, yeah, and when you look at the stats since he's been divorced. But even since then, Skip, it's only been a couple of drives. It was the final 2 drives against the Rams. It was the final 2 drives against the Saints. He hasn't put together a complete game in a very, very long time. And if he wants to get to his ultimate destination and win it, they're going to need to start playing good offensive football. I believe their defense is playing good enough. They're top 3 defense as far as scoring defense in the National Football League. Their offense leaves a lot to be desired. So I think he's motivated, but I think a lot of the extra motivation, Skip, is trying to get this offense to where it needs to be. So when the playoffs hit, they feel very good about where they are.
Okay. I hear you about Brady and company needing to play a full football game. I will give you that. They are 6-6 for a reason because, as Bill Parcells said, you are what your record says you are. They're a 500 football team in by far the worst division in football. I will give you all the above. But what you just sort of tiptoed into, I think, is the biggest, most underplayed story in sports right now. And that story is that the Shanahans that you played for, again, you didn't play for Kyle, but Kyle was in the locker room.
Yeah,
you watched him grow up.
I did.
But Mike obviously is a chief advisor to Kyle as we speak. So I call it the Shanahans Brain Trust in San Francisco. They said no twice to Tom Brady. They said no to Brady when he got pushed out in New England because obviously Tom wanted a fairy tale ending. He wanted the Cinderella story to end back where it all began for him near San Mateo, California, which is very close to Candlestick Park, going to the north or to the south to the stadium they play in now. It's about 20 minutes either way. So the point is that he grew up idolizing Joe Montana, throwing to Dwight Clark, the catch game that ended the Cowboy dynasty and launched the 49er dynasty. That's what he grew up on. That's how he came to love football, was through that team. So obviously, after all he achieved, the dynasty that he built in New England, you would think that he would say, well, hey, I want to go finish there. And they said no. And then this past offseason, he once again, after he'd won his Super Bowl, and then obviously they lost to the Rams last year in the playoffs, but he'd had enough of Bruce Arians. We know the whole story. And he was momentarily free again, and he, quote unquote, retired for about 15 minutes. But the point was, in that period of time, he went back to them again and said, hey, I'm available, even for maybe a year or 2 to close this thing out. Are you interested? No, we're not interested. Okay, so then he goes on the shop late last June, this past June, and he uttered that immortal line. You're going to stick with that, MF? Really? Okay, well, it's vintage Brady. We don't get to hear him speak like that, but when you get in the barber shop that is the shop with LeBron and company, you just let it fly because that's what they do on that show.
Do you believe, Skip, because it was reported that they were trying to get a backdoor channel, get some ownership in the the Dolphins. He becomes the quarterback of the Dolphins. Sean Payton comes in.
Well, obviously, he was talking to them.
Right.
He was flirting with them.
Right.
And then you know the rest of the story.
Right.
It blew up because.
Right.
Okay, so now back to June led to July, and he made an appearance on XM Sirius Radio on the what they call the town hall with Jim Gray, who's his usual moderator interviewer.
Right.
And Jim Gray asked him about what he had said on the shop.
Right.
And I'm going to read the whole quote, and it's a little long here, but I think it's germane. It's the essence of what we're talking about right here, right now. This is Tom Brady to Jim Gray about what he said on the shop. There's private things for me that are going to remain motivational for me. They know who they are. It's fine. Everyone has a choice to choose. I think what you realize is there's not as many smart people as you think. That's just the reality. I think it'd be a no-brainer if you said, hey, you've got a chance to get Wayne Gretzky on your team, or you got a chance to have Michael Jordan on your team. Oh, we don't need him. No, thanks. We're good. In my mind, I'm kind of thinking, okay, let me go show those teams what they're missing. At the same time, let me go prove to the team that did bet on me, the team that really showed they really wanted me and committed to me, that I'm not going to let them down. Okay. That's vintage Tom Brady.
Right.
That's the essence of Tom Brady. So he's telling you, without naming names, they said no to Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan.
But Skip, when Mike came back for the final time and he ends up in Washington, how many teams would say, "Oh yeah, we want Mike"? There were not very many teams.
Okay, he had fallen out of shape. You know this.
But that was,
and that was like one last ceremonial hurrah where he was going to get to run the show. He was going to get to be the GM and sort of the coach.
Got his coach, Bill Collins.
He did everything.
Right.
And again, nobody was expecting that much from him at that point because he had been gone for 3 years. Well, Brady was never gone for 3 minutes.
But I also think, Skip, we hadn't seen a quarterback in year 20. Nobody could have guessed. Even you, and you thought Tom Brady still had some years left. But you didn't envision him playing as well at 42, 43, 44, 45.
Not like this.
Right, exactly. So they're basing it on history tell us it's over. So that's what you got to base it on. Now, Tom Brady has defied Father Time. He's beat the odds. But I can't be mad at teams for not wanting to take on a 20-year-old, a 20-season vet quarterback.
Okay. But you know how I feel about the Shanahans. As much respect as I have for both of them. And Kyle is growing on me by the week because he is really good at what he does.
He does.
He's a good CEO, and he has some offensive genius coaching football the way he coaches it, which is run first, obviously. They are going to run it very creatively down your throat. And they're going to throw it to playmakers all over the field. They've got people everywhere who can make plays.
Correct.
And his point is, I don't really care who the quarterback is, as long as he just does it the way I want it done, to get the ball to a Kittle, to an Ayuk, to a Debo, right on schedule, right on time, when we need to get the ball to them.
It's more about the system than
It's the system. It's more about Kyle and Mike than it is about any single cog in the system. So clearly, to me, in the end, the essence of what just happened was, even though I'm sure they thought, well, maybe he could do this or that at this age, but they don't want this or that from Wayne Gretzky or Michael Jordan because they're the Shanahans. And the elder Shanahan, he's got some cachet because he's got some Super Bowl rings, thanks in part to you.
But Skip, because the thing is, when you get a Gretzky or Michael Jordan, there are certain concessions that you're going to have to make, even if you're running the organization.
You do. You pretty much have to give it up to Gretzky or Jordan or Tom Brady.
In that case.
And he's going to come in and say, gee, I do it this way.
Right.
And I like to use this nomenclature for the plays. I'd rather call it this way.
Right.
I prefer this. I prefer that. I don't want to run it quite as much. I'd rather throw it a little bit more than we run it. Whatever. You know and I know that if they went and won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, who's going to get the credit? He's going to get the lion's share of the credit, if not all of the credit, right?
Yes.
Well, that's not the business that they're in right now because They love where they are. They love John Lynch. It's a great combo that they have going. They just do, where they love each other and they respect each other, and there's great rapport and there's two-way communication, and they're not at odds with each other that I know of.
Right.
And Mike is still very much involved, and it's the perfect scenario, except that Tom says, hey, that's my scenario. This is my team. I grew up loving this team. It's how I feel about the Cowboys. Sometimes even with Jerry Jones, I feel like, you know what? You're ruining my team. That's my team. You can't do that.
Right.
You can't run it the way you want to, because we own that team.
I've been a fan longer than you've been the owner.
Well, that is correct. And Tom has been a fan way longer than the Shanahans have been running the 49ers.
Correct.
So I think it wounded him deeply. Okay, so now back to your case in point. He's had a rough year, but he's had blips, but he hasn't had trends.
Right.
Okay, but I defy you to go find a quarterback who can do late to the Rams and then obviously late to the Saints what Brady did, or even late to the Saints in game number 2 at New Orleans. He can still play at an extremely high level when it has to be done, when the season has to get saved. I want him at quarterback as much as I want anybody out there, including Mahomes or Burrow or anybody of the others we're going to talk about here coming up in a little bit.
Okay.
But the point is that, can he muster this up? Because I believe Psycho Tom is about to re-emerge on Sunday at San Francisco. But Psycho Tom, as driven as he's going to be to stick it to the Shanahans, and I think he will be all-time driven to stick it to them, is he capable of sticking it to them? And guess what they have? They're playing from a position of strength because they have the ultimate antidote to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. They have the best defense in pro football. And I'm speaking as a Cowboy fan who thinks my defense is really, really good.
And they might have the defensive player of the year in
I'm
Nick
just
Bosa.
saying. Well, I'm just
they're number one across the board, Skip.
Everything. I can't argue with anything
yards,
that you're talking about.
Rush, first downs.
They're a little better than my Cowboys are. They don't take the ball away quite as much as my Cowboys do, but I'm reading a piece from our friend at USA Today, Jarrett Bell.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the great Ronnie Lott, one of the great 49ers, obviously, about how good this defense is. And Ronnie Lott is going big picture crazy about it. He's saying it's the steel curtain. He thinks it's the 85 Bears. He thinks it's LT's defense. He's making all these comparisons. And he says, this defensive line, this is Ronnie Lott, I'm quoting in USA Today, this D-line is deadly, like something we've seen in the past years, like the old Steelers, as in the steel curtain, Mean Joe Green Steelers. And he says, then Jarrett comes back and says, boy, that's a strong comparison. But he's measuring this unit that starts with Nick Bosa and then Eric Armstead and then Ebicam and Kevin Givens. And then you go to the back end of it, and it's Fred Warner and it's Jimmy Ward. And they're also throwing in the D coordinator that you have raved about, D'Amico Ryans, because Ronnie Lott says D'Amico is able to push psychological buttons the way Buddy Ryan used to, or the way Coach Saban still does. He's comparing D'Amico that he can touch your heart and motivate you to play at a higher level than you normally would play. Okay, so they have got it going because, remember, Tampa is still dead last in rush, rushing. And they are first in stopping the rush. Well, so Brady's got to be thinking, can I run it at all on Sunday? Probably not. Right?
And Nick Bosa is number 1 in sacks. He's like number 2 in pressures, number 2 in quarterback hits. They get to your quarterback before.
So they have a deadly rush. Do I think their pass rush is quite as deadly as Dallas's? I do not. But overall, the impact of that whole defense, it's a little better than Dallas's because the stats are screaming that, what have they given up a game? 15.8 points a game. Well, Brady's offense manages to score 18 a game.
Exactly.
Okay? So can Brady hope to score any more than maybe 15-ish? No. So you're going to have to win another game like you just won against the Saints, who also have a very good defense, but not quite this kind of defense. But Brady was down 16-3 with 5 minutes left at home on Monday Night Football and managed to score 14 points in 5 minutes. To win it, what was it, 17-16? Okay, so he scored 17 points, and they're averaging 18 for the year. So you want to talk about up against it because, as you well know, if you play on Monday night and you have to fly across the country in the interim before you play Sunday.
And they're probably leaving tomorrow.
Okay. So
I would assume, Skip, going from Tampa to San Francisco, I wouldn't put my team on a flight on Saturday and get there and play Sunday.
Wouldn't you call this a tough turnaround?
Oh, it's absolutely
it's the toughest, especially when you have to fly all the way to San Francisco.
But the thing that Tom is up against, Skip, is that when you score so few points, your defense can't have an off night.
Nope.
Because if you have an off night, you end up getting happen to you what the Chiefs did to you. You have an off night defensively, and the next thing you know, you've given up 41.
Okay.
Or you're giving up like the Ravens, and you can't get the ball back. And so that's why it's incumbent upon Tom, because you know, Skip, the likelihood of your defense holding everybody moving forward to 16, 15, 12, you're asking an awful lot when you continuously put them out, when you continuously go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out.
Yep.
And now you got your backups, right tackle, going up against Nicky Bosa. And Donovan Smith gets like 2 holding calls a game. He gets 2 a game.
He does. Okay. So he's your best offensive lineman, and he got 2 big holding calls the other night, Monday night, that they managed to survive.
Overcome.
You have new players at left guard, and the rookie is now hurt. So you got a backup at left guard. You have a brand new center, and now you've lost Tristan Wirfs, your right tackle.
He's your best offensive lineman.
Okay, and you have a backup in there who is actually the backup at left guard and left tackle.
He's a rotational player.
So he's stuck in over there.
Right.
Well, it's not a very good offensive line, given what Brady's had in the past to protect him.
Right.
Given last year's offensive line, this one's about a fourth of that, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just hard for me. Skip, and you mentioned like Tom, it's just hard for me to imagine that they're 27th in points scored at 18 points a game. It's just hard. That's Tom Brady.
Okay.
And you look at the 17th in total offense, 19th in third down. Tom normally kills you on third down because he keeps you on the field. And it's third down after third down. What did he do with the Patriots? Oh, it's Amendola. It was Edelman. It was Wes Welker. And it was third down after third down and after third down. And you're like, well, damn, can we get him out the field? Nope.
Okay, but the wide receivers only the last couple of games have been back whole, because there have been games in the past here in this year when Russell Gage has led the team in targets. And then another game at New Orleans, little Scotty Miller led the team in targets. So they're just now getting back healthy. And I don't think Julio has quite the burst that he used to have.
But he still can make tough
He can still make
catches.
some plays. Obviously, Godwin is coming off that. All these receivers who come off the ACL, it just takes a while.
It does.
And it takes him a while to get his legs back underneath him. And I thought only on Monday night was I starting to see glimpses and flashes, because he led the team in targets of Chris Godwin from last year.
Right.
And Mike Evans kind of comes and goes. He's beat up. He's not been quite what he used to be. Plus, they double him every time. They just say, you can't have him anymore.
Right.
You can throw it to Scotty Miller.
Because he's mainly the guy that's getting downfield.
Yeah.
If you notice, Skip, they're not throwing Chris Godwin go balls.
No.
The go balls
He's
go
a possession receiver, but he's a middle of the field possession receiver.
He's a bigger Welker, Edelman. He's a bigger one of those.
Right.
And so we know that the ball, if it's going downfield, is probably going downfield to Mike Evans or Scotty Miller. So, if you study tape, it's Skip. I mean, what is Scotty? And I tell why I'm trying to figure out how Scotty Miller keep getting past people. Because when he comes in, he's coming to run one route.
But the one big route that he ran the other night was a slant route on 3rd and 6, and he caught it for 7 yards.
But where did they put him? He was in the slot.
He was in the slot.
So if you study tape, you just know where, okay, this is what he likes to do in the slot.
Okay. So remember, down the stretch last year, Tom could go to Gronk.
Yeah.
And Gronk, to your point, you first guessed it. You said, no, he's done.
Yeah.
And it sure looks like he's completely, utterly done.
Yeah.
So who was the next Gronk in line? Cameron Braid. Well, he's had concussions, he's had a neck injury, and he has not been, and then he was sick the other night, or that's what they said, so he's not been available.
Yeah.
You're throwing to a rookie tight end.
I like Otto, Skip. I think he got skills. I think he has an opportunity to be special.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how much of that. He looked like he has some ability. Now, it makes your job a lot easier when you got that guy throwing you the football. Makes your job a lot easier, but I think he can make plays. I mean, he just has to get on, on the Tom threw him a post route, but Tom wants him to come. He's like, get in there.
Yep.
Don't keep it up the field. I need you to break it in. Tom is like.
He's actually made a couple, 3 big catches and big moments.
Yeah.
So he's got some clutchness to it where he'll hang on when you throw it to him when it really counts.
Yes.
Okay, I get all that. But you want to talk about biggest challenge of the year for Brady?
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody he wants to beat worse than this team, yet this is the hardest, biggest challenge he's been up against, because it's the best defense in football with the best pass rush this side of Dallas in football.
Right.
And the team that stops the run the best is this team, and they can't run it anyway. So all of a sudden, What's he got to
you got to
work
try to
with?
Skip. You got to try to run. I don't know if you could ask Brady to drop back and throw the ball 50+ times against this defense because they're gonna touch you.
Okay.
You're playing with fire to throw that many times. I'm going to try to run. Skip, I'm not just saying you just hand it off to White or you're going to have to get creative in the run game. But you ask Tom to go back there, you're asking for trouble to ask him to go back and throw the ball, drop back 50+
So when have we
times.
seen Tom Brady's offense at its best? When they just let it fly.
Mm-hmm.
They go what they call 2 minute, but it's no huddle.
Right.
So you just no huddle. And Todd Bowles acknowledged a couple of days ago, yeah, we can work in some more no huddle. We've done it here and there, but it obviously works the best late in the games.
Right.
You made the point on Monday, well, you're going to wear your receivers out because if you're just running routes and running back and running routes and running back, well, you might have to go deep into your receivers and let Jalen Darden play some receiver because I think that's the only way to beat this defense is to let Tom have his head just to run, just to go.
Right.
And then he'll call more of the plays himself on the fly. There'll be a little more check with me, sort of option choice routes, obviously. And that's the only way to beat this team. I still believe that Brady's got one of those games left in him, and he's going to have his best game in this game, and I believe he will. And again, the one good thing that he's got one advantage, and that's Brock Purdy is on the other side instead of Jimmy G.
Yeah,
that MF is not on the other side.
I think the thing is, Skip, but you still would have to probably trust Brady against the 49ers defense, even though it's highly touted, versus versus Purdy.
I agree. And I like Brock Purdy because he was really good at Iowa State, but he's...
But, he didn't face anything like that defense at Iowa State.
No, I agree. So I'm going to go with Brady to win this game because I think he will be hell-bent to win this game.
Oh, yeah, he will. I took the Niners. You convinced me. You told me Brock Purdy was pretty good. I'm about to see what Miss Purdy can do.
Well, you know what?
Mr. Purdy going to have to.
I thought he played pretty well the other day.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. And remember, we talked about this. It's easier for a guy to come off the bench when he hadn't been scouted. They didn't expect Jimmy G to go out of that game, so they put no preparation on Purdy.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, Tampa comes in and says, "Okay, this is what he likes to do. This is how they like to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we got a way to attack him."
Yeah. He's played in a lot of big games in his life. They just been against Oklahoma and Baylor and Oklahoma State.
Well,
right?
maybe, who knows? Maybe the scouting department go back and they pull some tape. And they look at him as, okay, guys, this is what he can do. This is where he likes to throw the ball. And you look at things of that nature. But they didn't have a whole lot of NFL film on him.
No, I got it.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Subscribe here to get the very latest from Skip and Shannon. Plus, go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.